talk about guns. Guns purchases are way up everywhere. Are there fixes to gun laws that you support and which could pass, that could actually make a difference?
That's the key, isn't it? Could pass. You know, I've always tried to, as a chief, to take the middle road, because I know that I have an obligation to serve all constituents. I will say, though, that there is just really been such a lack of common sense on some of the laws that we've seen passed in recent years. And I ran into this in Atlanta, run into it here, and it's, why does someone need to walk around with an assault rifle in a city park? Why do they need to walk around with assault rifles on city streets? I mean, that's just, it's asinine. And I think anybody that can stand up and say that that is what the Constitution had in mind is like, no, you know, get your head out of the plant holder. So I think there's definitely things, if we put down our swords and really say we want to have a policy that ensures the safety of all Americans, we can come to the table with something. But it's become so politicized, people don't want to listen. I think there's that ground, but there also is a ground of, like, I really hope, you know, so we have the DOJ here now. I really hope that the Department of Justice will expand its platform to start looking at those cities that are experiencing these enormous upticks in crime, or those areas that have mass shooters, to see how the judiciary is operating. It is imperative that somebody start demanding transparency from the DA's office, the judges, the system. Because what I will tell you is, almost without fail, the folks, the violent repeat offenders that my folks are arresting, and the key word, operative word, is repeat, have been arrested repeatedly for being in possession of an illegal firearm or not being authorized to have a firearm. And it's like, if you really want to change the narrative around policing and lower the level of officer-involved shootings, you have to start holding accountable those individuals who have shown that they are predisposed to committing violence, particularly with guns, and others. And that is absent. That's not just the Louisville issue. When I go to major city chiefs conferences, this is an issue we're all struggling with. And so what we need to be seeing is, how many of these cases are dead docketed? Are the judges, how many days a week are judges working? Are they requiring plea bargains? Are they going to trial? How many times are people being allowed to have first offender status? Let's start looking at the whole of the judiciary, because it's unfair for the constituents, because they think when the police have made an arrest, oh, it's taken care of. Not at all. Not at all.
Well, there are a couple, you raised about 14 points there, but the key ones at the end are that, you know, I think the courts were responding to this sort of backlash on over incarceration. And then
Sure.
COVID came along and they were trying to clear the jails so that people didn't die in jail. So do you feel like the courts have lost their sense of balance, and that they, you know, I mean, a lot of them haven't gotten back up to 100% speed. They've got gigantic backlogs. They've got excuses out the planter, as you would say. So why do you think the courts haven't, you know, you're right. A lot of chiefs have criticized the courts for being slow to respond. I don't particularly understand why repeat offenders are getting released. And so where's the disconnect here in terms of the courts getting back to where they were? Or is it that they're responding to criminal justice reform by letting too many people out?
So what I will say is this. Yes, there was mass over incarceration in the 80s and 90s all day long, and I'm not going to defend it. The fact of the matter is, at the time, it was convenient to put people in jail, in prison, for substance abuse issues that we now treat in a manner they should be treated. But that worked for so long then, because the bulk of the population that impacted was the Black population, period. Which is why you're going to automatically see myself and others cringe when you hear mandatory sentencing, because it just really did not take into account what the issue was. However, what we're talking here are people who have guns and who are willing to kill other people. This issue with the courts has been going on long before COVID. Long before COVID. COVID is in no way, shape, or form even a part of the excuse process. It's provided an excuse for this past year and maybe contributed somewhat as the jails have tried to empty out, but no, it's been afoot for a long time. I think that when there's a lack of transparency in any institution, whether it's a government or private sector, cultures take hold. And the cultures within many of these 8 jurisdictions have just become so politicized that there's not even the time or attention being given to cases that they should be. I think many of them are fast track. I don't think they even look to see what the priors are. I think you see negotiations between the judges and the jails to ensure populations are come down so the jails don't come under consent decree. So I think that there's a much larger underworld that has to be looked at, and it's not that it's corrupt or ill-intentioned, but the results have created a very unproductive system.